In our first session, we introduced the concept of money creation. Now we're going to take a look at the actual nuts and bolts of money creation to give you an idea of how money is created within an economic system. Remember Sally? Now Sally received a gift from her grandmother. Sally received a $1,000 check from her grandmother, a very generous grandmother, and she decides to deposit it into her demand deposit at the local bank, Bank A. Let's take a look at the T account for Bank A. Now, Bank A shows Sally's deposit, $1,000 that Sally has deposited into her demand deposit at the bank, and out of that, there is a 10% reserve requirement we're assuming that the central bank has made for the banking system. So with that 10% reserve requirement, we can see that 100 must remain in required reserves, but that leaves $900 in excess. Now the bank would like to see that money loaned out because that brings in revenue for the bank. So a customer comes into Bank A, and that customer is Gabe, and Gabe would like a new TV. So what he does is he comes in, he borrows what's available in excess, $900, and goes to Art's appliance store. Once he makes his purchase, let's see what happens to our T account. In this case, before he goes to Art's, he will receive a demand deposit of $900 because that represents the loan, and now the excess will become a loan for $900. Now, once that money is spent at Art's, now Art will take either the check or he will have his account at Bank B credited in his demand deposits for $900. Now, as we've talked about previously, what's on the liability side, he has made his deposit of $900, now is also on the reserve, on the asset side as reserves. Again, with a 10% reserve requirement, we see that this means that 90 must be kept either in the vault or on deposit at the Regional Federal Reserve, and it allows excess of 810. Well, again, the bank wants to earn money on its excess reserves, so it makes a loan to another customer, and in this case, we have Ellen. Ellen needs new carpeting, and so she comes to the bank, she borrows $810, and now she will, in her demand deposits, the bank will credit $810. Now this is Ellen's, and this represents Art's. And we have, instead of excess of $810, this now has become a loan for $810. Ellen has made a purchase at Clark's Carpeting. Clark receives his $810 either as a check or it's transferred into his account, and he's at Bank C. Now let's take a look at Bank C's T account. Now Bank C's T account shows a demand deposit of $810, and this represents the deposit that was made by Clark. Now, when this demand deposit is made, again, with a 10% reserve requirement, 10% of $810 is $81, leaving an excess of $729. And of course, again, the bank wants to issue a loan. And of course, we have another customer that happens to need a new appliance, and so Pam comes in and borrows, you guessed it, $729. So a loan now for $729, and what we have seen is that Pam's going to make a demand deposit of $729. That belongs to Pam. Now, we could continue with more loans, more demand deposits, more required reserves, excess reserves. However, this gets very tedious. We can show it in a chart form, and we can see that we have listed our banks A, B, and C. We have our new reserves. Those are the required reserves established by the central bank at a 10%. We can see that we have issued new loans, and when we take the new reserve plus the new loans, we see that that equals the deposit that was put in by Sally, by Art, by Clark, and we can see we can continue. Now, going with money multiplier that we mentioned in the last section, we talked about how the reserve requirement 1 over the reserve requirement equals the money multiplier. In this case, it would be 1 over 0.1 or 1 over 1/10, which equals 10. That means that we can see our new deposits have created and added. We have 1,000 that was in new reserves, plus the 9,000 gives us $10,000.